Hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about conditional statements. Before we get into what exactly they are, let's look at a problem that would be perfect for the use of conditional statements. So the question is, given a grade of a student from 0 to 100 that we have to input in, print out the letter grade they would receive. An A refers to a grade of 90 and above, a B refers to a grade of 80 to 89, a C refers to a grade of 70 to 79, a D refers to a grade of 60 to 69, and an F refers to a grade below and equal to 59. And so this doesn't seem like too bad of a problem. If we were given a number, it would be pretty easy to just compute the grade in our heads. Like let's say the grade was 67. We can tell right away that the letter grade should be D. So how would we code this? Let's begin by just creating two variables. One variable for the numerical value of the grade, the value we're going to be inputting in, and let's call that input. And let's create a second variable, which is like the actual letter grade. Note that the type of the first variable is int, because again, we're inputting in an integer from 0 to 100. And for the actual grade, it's of type character, because we're assigning it to just like one character, one letter, either A, B, C, D, or F. Input in the input, like what this does again is that it puts in the value like you give to the compiler, and it assigns that value to the variable input. And so now let's actually talk about coding this and coding the solution to this problem. So again, what we can see here is that we want to basically assign different values to our variable grade based on what the number is. Like based off whether or not the number is greater than 90, then we would assign it A. If it was from 80 to 89, it would be a B, and so on. And so we would have to use something called an if statement. An if statement looks something like this. So we're writing if the input is greater than or equal to 90, and then we're saying the grade is equal to A. And so let me just go over what this is saying and what this is doing. So the if here kind of signals to C++ that we're doing an if statement. And so we put a condition within these parentheses. And that is if the input is greater than or equal to 90. And if it is, what C++ will do is that it'll look between the back brackets and it will activate that code. So then the grade will be set to A. And if the input is less than 90, if it doesn't meet that condition, then C++ basically just skips over the stuff in the brackets and it goes on to the rest of the code. So if statements are great for conditions that we place, because we don't always want to change like the grade to A in this case. Only if like this certain condition is met, that's only when we want to change the grade. And so again, what this is doing is that it's checking if the input is greater than or equal to 90, then we want to change the grade to A. And so there's different ways where we can like compare the variables like with the number. We can do an equals equals. So let's show that right here. And so equals equals. So basically in order to do an if statement where we're basically saying is input equal to 90, we put in the middle of input and 90, we put in two equal signs. We don't put in just one. And the reason for this is because just one equal sign refers to assigning a value. Like for example, if we were to write int A is equal to 3, then in this case that equal sign assigns a value of 3 to the variable of A. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to assign the value of 90 to an input. We want to check if the input is equal to 90, and then we want to do something based off that condition. And so the equals equal signs is basically what you use. And so other things we can use, we can do less than or equal to. We can do a not equal to. And so not equal to is basically an exclamation mark and then an equal sign. And we can also just do less than and greater than. Okay, so let's go back to coding the problem. And so again, we've successfully written an if statement that changes the variable grade to A if this condition of the input being greater than or equal to 90 is met. And so if we look back to the problem, the next thing we want to change is if the grade is between 80 to 89, we want to change the grade to B. And so we can use something called an else if statement in this case. And so we write else if the input is greater than or equal to 80, we would set the grade to B. Okay, and so what this else if does is that basically the first statement is evaluated. If the input is greater than or equal to 90, then we want to set the grade to A. But if that isn't activated, if the input is less than 90, then this else basically refers to, oh, we're going to try something else now, and we're going to check if the input is greater than or equal to 80. And if it is, we're going to assign the value of B to grade. And so again, if it is like 96, for example, we would just go through this first if statement and we would assign a value of A, and then we'd skip over everything else. But if it was like 86, we'd go through the first if statement and we would skip that because the input isn't greater than or equal to 90. We would then go to what is after the else. We would go to the next if statement here, and we would check that, oh, is the input greater than or equal to 80? And since an 86 is, then we would set the grade to B. So we're either assigning a grade of A if the input is greater than or equal to 90, and if it isn't, and the input is greater than or equal to 80, then we're assigning a value of B. And so we can do these else if statements for the other letters we have. So for the C, it would be if the input is greater than or equal to 70. And the reason, again, why we don't need to do if the input is greater than or equal to 80 and the input is less than 90 is because we're already counting for if it's less than 90 from the previous if statement. Okay, so let's do the D real quickly. If the input is greater than or equal to 60, then we want to set it to D. And then now we're going we're reaching our final condition, and that is if it's less than 60. And so here we can just use a normal else statement. That's going to set the grade to an F. So again, it starts off with this if from the really beginning. It checks if the input is greater than or equal to 90, and then it goes through each of these else if statements if that condition isn't met. But when it goes through each of these statements, when any of these statements are met, then it skips everything else. But if these statements aren't met, then it keeps on going down to each statement until one is met. And if none are met, then it just goes on to the final else statement and assigns a grade value of F. And so let's see out our grade now. And let's run this program to see if it works. Okay, let's give it different inputs. Let's first try like 96. And we're getting an A like we should be. Let's try doing 84. Let's try 89. Let's try 72. Let's try 65. And let's try 3. So we can see in all of these kind of cases that we're getting the right output. And so hopefully this was a good kind of introduction to the if statement, else if statements, and the else statements, and these are kind of just conditionals. And actually, before we end this video, one more thing to note is that inside an if statement, if we want two conditions to be met, we could add an and. So we would basically do the and symbol twice, and then we'd write our separate condition. So let's say input has to be less than 100, less than or equal to 100. And so again, both of these conditions have to be met in order for the following statement to execute. And we can also do an or statement. And we can do that by doing two of these symbols. And so again, this means that either the input has to be greater than or equal to 90, or the input has to be less than or equal to 100 in order for this condition, or in order for the statement to execute. And so again, hopefully this was a good introduction. And thank you for watching. In our next video, we're going to do some more complicated problems involving if statements as kind of a review and practice. So please check that out, and thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.